Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And ever increasingly, we always seem to be talking about airplanes. Anyways, I'm here today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
Yeah, well, that's my corrupting influence. Oh, fine, thank you.
Yeah, well, it's just it's kind of funny because it keeps coming up. I mean, we do talk about electric aviation a fair amount, but it's also just one of these things where we see more and more things just in the aviation space going on, and we do have at least one article on
Oh,
aviation
we have to
today.
talk about that one. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't really my big thing, but I want to start out with Japanese investment in the United States. Okay,
Okay.
and this is what we had. Was it Toyota invested 15 billion in batteries in one of the Carolinas, but this is a new one. $500 million EV battery material plant is the first of its
Hmm.
kind in the U.S. And this is
Yeah.
a company from Japan called UBE, and they've broken ground in Louisiana on the U.S. only dimethyl carbonate and this is funny, ethyl methyl carbonate plant,
Right.
key components for lithium ion batteries and EVs and battery storage. They're also used in semiconductors. And the battery material plant kicked off on February 13th with a ceremonial sake barrel breaking. They all drink sake,
Oh, okay.
which
Sure, why
they're all
not?
dressed in some type of traditional
Yeah, it was the
Japanese garb
yeah, I
and
kind of
drink.
I kind of like that jacket. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, and then they all, I guess, grab some sake from this big old barrel here and uh, and drink it. Well, it's better than drinking the chemicals probably. But let me see. It's in Jefferson Parish. It got a green light in November of 2024 and expected to give the local job market a boost. It'll have 50 to 60 full-time skilled positions and 400 temporary construction jobs. Let's see. It'd be the first U.S. supply of these and reduce U.S. reliance on imports. Its nitrite process, which we've been developing since the 1970s, enables us to realize a limited environmental impact with much fewer byproducts compared to other existing plants and processes, which are particularly in mainland China. It'll be constructed and managed through its U.S. subsidiary, and it'll produce 100,000 tons of one of them and 40,000 tons of the other annually.
Yeah. So
Let's
I, I'm
see.
guess I'm guessing it's probably located there because the oil refining industry there in Louisiana. There's probably some feedstock, methyl ethyl, and I'm guessing that's a feedstock out of the petroleum industry that they're taking advantage of.
Now, so Michael Heck, who's the president and CEO of Greater New Orleans, said by establishing the nation's first domestic production of these critical EV battery components, UBE is strengthening American manufacturing while creating high quality jobs in Jefferson Parish. UBE is one of at least 6 companies to announce plans to build or expand EV materials manufacturing facilities in Louisiana since 2022, bringing them a total investment of $2.4 billion and 600 jobs. Now,
Yeah, your
we
sound's
have another
gone again.
article I'll get to in a bit that's going where some stuff is going the opposite direction, right?
Yeah. Your
So,
audio,
can you still hear me?
I
Can you
can.
still hear me, Bill? Did I
Yeah,
lose you
that's
for a
better.
second?
That's
Oh,
better.
somebody was calling me on WhatsApp.
Okay.
I had a group call on
Oh,
WhatsApp. Yeah. Anyways, apparently they should be watching the show. At least one of them watches on LinkedIn, so that's
okay.
may not real.
All right.
Yeah, anyways, um, but I thought that was interesting news just from that perspective of seeing some investment into the U.S. Now we're going to go the opposite direction.
Exactly.
Okay, so Republican districts lose billions as clean energy cancellations surge, and we talked about this. We've been talking about this a lot, running up to the election. Now, I like the fact that to a certain degree, if you went bankrupt, you'd wipe everything out. You wouldn't be paying anybody anything, and you slowly start to build again, right? And that's kind of what it seems how the government's trying to react right now. And I think it's kind of scary because they're moving at such a rapid pace. But
Yeah.
on the flip side, I think some of it is that we're cutting some stuff, and then when we find out what the repercussions are, we're reinstituting it 24 hours later.
I don't know if I like move fast, break stuff, recover. This kind of Silicon Valley mentality, right? I don't know if I
Hmm.
really want that in my government.
Well, I know in the private equity space, which a lot of people dislike because it causes a lot of people to lose jobs and stuff like that, this is really common practice. Is you come in and you try to right away figure out where things are bleeding, what you can cut back, and where you can, you know, get the most bang for the buck. And I don't know. I've just never felt that Washington is really watching out for us. So, you know,
No.
we'll see. We'll see where this, but this is kind of painful to see. But clean energy investments took a serious hit in January, sinking to their lowest point since the Inflation Reduction Act supercharged the industry with tax credits and incentives. Growing uncertainty with the Republican majority Congress debating potential rollbacks has led to a sharp drop in new projects and an increase in cancellations. Last month, companies announced just 176 million in new clean energy related factories and projects, with one company being 120 of the 176
Yeah.
million, and that's all in solar.
Yeah.
That's the lowest since August 22, and only the fourth time investments have failed to reach $1 billion since 2022. The clean energy project cancellations are stacking up. Fryer Battery just scrapped plans for a $2.6 billion battery factory in Georgia, which would have created 700 jobs. CEO Jim Farley of Ford also warning of tariffs and shifting policies could cause them to lay off workers. There's a lot of uncertainty about things that are currently
Yeah.
going
Do
on
you do you
with the
remember
government.
when we interviewed Jigger Shaw, he
Yeah.
mentioned one of the companies that they were loaned the money to was Aspen Aerogel, the
Hmm.
company that makes this special, extremely lightweight material that's used as a fire protection, thing
Hmm.
in battery construction. They've shut their project down.
Oh no,
Yeah, yeah, they shut theirs down.
that one here in Nebraska, or was that a different one?
No, 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 no. That's the one down. I think it's Florida. I believe they're located.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's kind of shocking. Um, so the one company that did the most investment, GE Vernova, put 120 million into wind, solar, and electric grid manufacturing in Texas, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, New York, and Florida. So 5 states. That'll create 750 permanent jobs. Let me see. But that's interesting to see that slow down. Hopefully that will you know temper out. It'll even out after a bit and start going back up again. We'll
We'll
see
see.
where.
There's a lot of trust being broken here.
Well, I think as a manufacturer, it's not fair to have made plans based on what the government was trying to incentivize, and then have that come back and bite you in the ass
Yep,
for
exactly.
going along with what the government's asked you to do. But we'll see where that plays out. Let's see what I want to go to next. All right, so U.S. News and World Report. This is kind of a funny. They're kind of funny on EVs. There's a couple of the old time magazines that are known for reviewing things.
Right.
Consumer Reports is a little wonky on EVs and different things.
What are those?
I,
They're like from the 40s, sort of Look magazine, Time magazine
yeah,
era. Yeah.
yeah. But U.S. News and World Report was a magazine my parents used to always read. Okay,
Hmm.
and so I remember seeing these all the time. But they did a report on what they say are the 4 best electric cars. Now they don't include SUVs or trucks or any of that. This was just
Sedans.
cars, and it was kind of an interesting perspective. And like their number 4 car is the 2024 Mini electric hardtop. Now, I like the looks of these. Now they don't have great range on them, but it ranked at number 4, and it has an MSRP of about $31,000. So it's inexpensive. They don't take up a lot of space. I've owned a gas Mini Cooper in the
Mhm.
past, and they sure don't take up any space in the garage.
Yeah,
I mean, it is really easy to park 2 cars side by side, with one of them being a Mini.
yeah.
Okay, but and it fits into every imaginable parking space, and it corners like a go-kart. I mean, it is really fun to take fast around a corner.
I have to let you drive my Fiat
Well,
sometime.
what's interesting was the number 3 car on their list is the 500e.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you wouldn't have expected that to make anybody's top 5 list, probably, but this was quite interesting. Um, highly maneuverable, small electric vehicle is wonderful for commuting around the city. However,
Bingo. Yep.
yeah, however,
Yeah. Well, there's always however.
its cabin doesn't have much space and the driving range is pretty short.
Yep.
But fun styling, nimble commuting car, seats 4, no upcoming changes. But
Well, I have had 5 in it one time.
do those people still talk to you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was, yeah, they're still talking. It was a very
Oh,
short drive.
yeah. So interestingly, number 2 was the 2025 Nissan Leaf. I wouldn't have expected this, but the Leaf, it's our oldest electric car that's still made in the here in the U.S. And um, they start out at $28,000. So it's an inexpensive car,
Yep.
and but low price, roomy cabin, lots of cargo space, good visibility, but slow charging. Yeah, so a few of the cars, especially the ones that are more like city commuters,
Yeah.
don't charge very fast at superchargers.
No.
Limited range in the base model, bland driving persona. Yeah, there is a Leaf Plus that does have about a 240-mile range versus the 150 of the base one, which is still way more than the old 60 to 80 they used to
Oh,
have 10
absolutely.
years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but the number 1 was the Hyundai Ioniq 6.
Mm,
And that's one that, up until maybe about 3 years ago, it was like a California only car. And then slowly they started selling them kind of on our part of the country, but it really hasn't been around that long. But they started out at about 37,000, and they're very energy efficient, but they accelerate well, and they have a lot of standard features that don't normally come in, in gas cars. Are paying for extra, but it does have cramped headroom. Well, that wouldn't work for me. I have a big head.
yeah.
I need a lot of headroom.
Long body.
Yeah. But anyways, I thought that was, interesting that they put that. It notably skipped the Model 3. You would have thought that would have
Yeah.
made the list, but
It's interesting. Yeah.
we never know what kind of hate we may get. All right, let's talk about energy efficiency for a minute. So,
You want to do that, or do you want to touch on the El Camino?
well, I want to get to that. I want to get to
Okay.
that,
All
but
right. Well,
that
you
is
go
probably
ahead.
that's probably going to come up next on my list because we really have a lot of articles today,
Yeah.
and I'm going to see what we can get through in our normal about 45 minutes. We'll get through as many of as we can. But Lucid and BMW execs claim efficiency is more important than range
Oh,
for
yeah.
electric cars. Now, Lucid would say this because they do have the most effective
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
electric motors.
Yes.
They figured out how to get 5 miles per kilowatt hour. It was interesting. I saw Jim Farley from Ford talking about how when you get to these big, like F-150s and other, large SUVs, you just really aren't that
Yeah, what was the
energy
word he
efficient.
used? They're irresolvable problems, I think is the
Yeah,
term he
well,
used.
maybe. I don't know that they're irresolvable, but at the moment they're a problem,
Yeah.
right? When you have especially the Hummer and the GM ones with the 200 kilowatt hour plus batteries. I mean, Those take a long time to charge. They're expensive. They add a lot to the price of the vehicle. Although with the lowering prices of EV batteries, you know, maybe you'll see the prices of those trucks plummet. I mean, you think about that 200 kilowatt hour battery in 2 years, you might be able to take another $20,000 off the price of one of those trucks, But that being said, the feeling from the CEO of Lucid, Peter Rawlinson, is that you would only need to get 100. If you had a 30 kilowatt hour battery that gets 6 miles per kilowatt hour, that would give you 180 miles of range.
Right.
The theory would be then it'd be a 30 kilowatt hour battery would be really fast to charge. If you went to charge it, that'd be pretty quick, right? Because
Yep.
you're not juicing up a 100 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah, exactly.
So in theory, when people talk about taking 30 minutes to charge, well, maybe here you're only taking 10 minutes to charge, or 5 or whatever. And then he's saying we could make a battery for about $2,500, maybe only $2,000 instead of $20,000 to $25,000.
Exactly.
And that would really lead to much more mass adoption of EVs. Well, once again, if you're shaving $20,000 off the price of all the EVs, then gas cars aren't even competitive anymore.
No.
But we know that's the future. I don't know about how energy efficient you're going to keep making the motors, but we know that the battery price is going to keep coming down.
Yeah.
So regardless, that's going to happen.
The motors are at least 85% efficient, and apparently with what Lucid's doing, it's considerably better than that. You can't get that with an internal combustion engine. 25% most.
I know that with some of the projects I consult on with EV range extenders, you could add another 20 to 30% efficiency to even what the motor's putting out through range extenders that are built into the wheel wells.
Mm.
And so, maybe you even get more efficient. Maybe you start pushing past 7 or even 8 miles per kilowatt hour. But you got to have a lighter vehicle, right? And the idea is that if you have this smaller battery pack, well, then you have a much lighter vehicle because the battery is so much of it.
Right.
Of course, that also keeps the car from flipping upside down. I mean, how many rollovers have you ever been in, Bill?
I have never been. Thank God, I've never been in a rollover.
I haven't either. I'm just saying, it's like it's one of those things. It's like the people talk about all the EVs catching on fire. Well, they catch on fire a lot less than gas cars. And how often do you have your gas car catch on fire? It's like I've never known anybody who's ever had one. And so, but I do know people who've rolled over vehicles before.
Well, yeah, that was a problem. There was a book that came out from a New York Times reporter that basically it was the tenor of his book that these SUVs are so top heavy that they are so much more prone to rolling over just simply because of the way they're designed.
Unless they're an EV. If they're an EV, then the weight's all stuck at the bottom of the car. There's nothing top heavy.
Exactly where you want it. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's a minor advantage of EVs. I mean, Elon Musk talked about this a little bit with the Model X, how you can't get the damn thing to roll over, no matter how hard they've tried to take it sideways and skid sideways. Yeah. They just can't get it. It'll roll up on its side for a second, then roll right back onto its wheels.
Now, how they pulled that off in Toronto?
Oh God, I haven't seen a video of the actual landing.
There are several videos. I've seen them already this morning, and everything was nice and normal on the approach. Just after they touched down, there was a cross, which I suspected, that there was some kind of a crosswind issue. That the aircraft landed. It looks from some of the video that they had ice problems on the runway. I can't verify that, but from where the plane ended up and where the passengers were getting out, there was a lot of ice. And that could be because they were spraying, water to keep the fire suppressed. But that plane touched down. Looks like it skidded almost immediately at touchdown.
Mhm,
Skidded to the right, at
mhm.
least from the video I'm watching, and dug in its starboard, its right wing into the thing.
Ah,
Then rolled onto its back. Took that wing off, rolled onto its back, but there was enough forward momentum. It just kept going all the way down the runway, on fire, by the way. But thank God that the fuselage stayed intact. It didn't break up.
could you imagine sitting in in there and now you're strapped into the seatbelt and you're upside
My wife,
down?
my wife and I were just talking about that. She said, "Well, how did they get out? Because everybody is upside down in that airplane, you know?"
Yeah, well, my head would have been up on the even in the seatbelt. My head would have been on the damn
Yeah.
bulkhead above
Yep.
me.
Yep. So
But
anyway, they'll be the Canadian equivalent of the NTSB will, I'm sure, be doing a study on there, and they'll have the black boxes. It's amazing that airplane stayed intact. It's a Canadair jet, so I guess Canada can be proud that
yeah,
their aircraft,
I wonder what brand. Do you know what brand of aircraft it was?
yeah, it's a Canadair Bombardier.
Okay, so it was even a Canadian
Yeah,
model.
I think
Yeah,
it's a Canadian model. Yeah.
yeah, Bombardier is a Canadian brand.
Yes.
Oh,
Or
um,
Bombardier or Bombardier. I think it's Bombardier actually, isn't it?
well, that's the most popular brand in
Yeah.
snowmobiles, and everybody just calls it Bombardier.
Yeah, it's the
Oh,
same
yeah,
company.
I'm sure people are saying it wrong, but it's what everybody calls it. I mean,
Yeah.
for all you listeners out there that don't live in a place where you have snow, we have this thing up here called a snow blower. Or not a snow, I'm sorry, not a snow blower, a snowmobile, which is a
Snowmobile.
tracked vehicle for running around like a four-wheeler.
Right.
But they're not
Anyway,
that common in the States.
sorry to get distracted, but you
Yeah.
know, rollover that was the most spectacular rollover of the week here, I think. So happy that those passengers were able to get out. There's one guy actually had the presence of mind of taking his phone, one of the passengers on the plane, taking his phone and recording himself getting off of the airplane. That video is available now. So he's by the way, he's using a little profanity, but that's understandable that he just went through a really traumatic event. So
Oh man, I just can't imagine going through that. But at least they all lived. I mean,
yeah, I
I
mean when I heard of it, and I saw the initial footage yesterday. I thought, how in the world does an airplane? I mean, how does it do that and stay intact? How does it flip over and scoot down the runway on its back?
so
But
you
the
remember the
video
crash in
shows,
you remember the crash in Sioux City back in the 90s?
yeah, that was the DC-10. DC-10?
Yeah. So it wasn't really, it wasn't supposed to land in Sioux City. It was going cross country and it
Yeah,
lost its hydraulics
right.
and they tried to land in a cornfield, but a wingtip hit first and they cartwheeled.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I watched the movie about that and I knew like half the people in it because I had they were all the medical professionals were tennis players that I used to coach in
Oh
Sioux
my.
City. And
Oh,
so I knew all the trauma doctors and all these other people.
yeah.
It was kind of interesting seeing all that. But that was my first thought: is how did it flip over without cartwheeling?
Yeah.
That's was my first thought because my thought was when the wing would have touched, then it would have made the plane start spinning.
Yeah.
But apparently that didn't happen either.
That's not what happened. No.
No, that's just hard to fathom how that went along. Anyways, back to our regular program. Um, okay, so some of you may remember the Chevy El Camino, which, let me see, for those of you who don't, this was a kind of carish looking,
Pickup truck. Yeah.
yeah, it was a carish looking pickup truck. and they were kind of popular for modding. Oh, there's some here that are a little newer than I remember. Let me see here. But let me see what we get for pictures here. 5 photos. Oh, got to get one at the back. They're all the ones that still seem to be available seem to be more of whatchamacallit, like the SS models,
Yeah.
you know. Um, there we go. So you kind of see the back
Okay,
here
there
of
we go.
this.
Yeah, there's a better.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
see the back of this, but it basically it's the size of a car. It's not tall like a truck, but it had a truck bed in the back. They're very imaginative vehicles. Well, I used to own this security guard company when back in the 90s, and one of my employees had one of these, and he was also a really big CB radio enthusiast. But there was
Oh, back in
mods.
the day, huh?
So CB radio is supposed to broadcast like 30 miles or something like that, but you could illegally boost them so you could talk to other countries and space stations and stuff like that. Well, he had this big ass antenna on there, and he had all kinds of power running to his CB stuff. He could run through a drive-through, wouldn't even have to roll down his windows. He could broadcast through their intercom system because he could overpower their own system and order stuff. And sometimes I get complaints because he'd be in a parking lot at some shopping mall and he'd be broadcasting. They knew it was a security guard because of what he was talking about, but he'd be
Right.
coming over like the store's intercoms and stuff
Yeah.
like that because his system was
A little
so
illegal. A
so
little
illegal.
illegal. Yeah.
Yeah, all illegal. But anyways, well, this guy's name was Whopper. He was a
Whopper.
big dude. He was even bigger. He was even taller and bigger than me. And but we called him Whopper.
Yeah.
I think his real name was Brian. But anyways, so now we've been blessed with
Well, you got to see this.
oh, I got to find it again.
Oh.
With the new look. This is an Italian company. It's called Ital Design Quintessenza, or for
Mhm.
quintessential design, and it's quite unique.
There you
But
go.
this is an electric version. Looks very futuristic version. It's an Italian 2+2 GT crossed with a pickup truck. But it's basically, first time I saw it, it's like, oh, that's an El Camino right there.
Yeah.
So it's purely a concept. Three
Zero.
electric,
Yeah. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
yeah, 3 electric motors, 150 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's a big battery pack. 777 horsepower, height adjustable suspension for off-roading. Let's see. I mean, it looks sharp from the front.
That's really cool. Yeah, it is. I
Yeah,
have to admit.
yeah. I think I'm going to go ahead and pre-order one of these.
There you
This
go.
this is nice. Maybe we won't get all the hate that we're going to talk about for the Cybertruck, but it's longer than a Ford F-150.
Hmm.
And this company, Ital Design, helped to do a limited run GTR project for Nissan. 24-inch wheels. It's not really intended for production, but rather incorporates a host of sustainability forward building materials and in-wheel electric motors. The roof comes off and there's an onboard refrigerated minibar. That's definitely needed. Oh yeah, like the old saying about El Caminos and mullets. It's business up front, party in the back. It
Yep.
seats 4, but the rear seats rotate towards the bed that's exposed by the removal of the hardtop roof. Hmm.
Yeah. So I
Oh,
wanted to
there
look
we
at.
go. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that right
So
there.
I'm
I mean,
wondering where are the in-wheel motors? I'm assuming they're in the front drive, and then there's a single motor drives the two rear wheels. I mean, it isn't. I couldn't
could
find
be.
anything specific on it. So
Could be. It's very interesting because you've got multiple looks for this vehicle. You got the front, the back, you got the, hard top on. I mean, that's a pretty cool look.
yeah,
And that's
put your put,
really a cool design.
put your name down on the list. What's
Yep.
interesting is if you go back up to where the photograph is it at the top or is it the, no, it's back at the top where it shows those seats, how it's open. And what
Hmm.
I'm wondering is, normally you would think, well, you'd rotate the seats. And what I'm wondering is if they aren't, the seats do this facing forward, and then you pull a pin or whatever, and then they do this. But because of the shape of the seat, you still have a kind of a nice, comfortable seat to sit in.
They're
Well,
expecting Subaru buyers to buy this.
well, possible. We're
Yeah.
yeah, we're
Oh, a
back up.
Blade Runner Subaru Brat. Yeah. Well, we don't have a price,
There,
but
there you go. There you go. There you go. So in the night or go into a drive. Do we have drive-in theaters anymore still? Right, go
not
into a drive-in
really.
theater and sit there. And at that seat. Well, what I'm saying is that it just simply the seat tilts up, into the forward position to ride the same direction as the car is going. And when you get here, then you probably pull a latch or something, and then the seat just simply flips back. So what was the back of the car or the back of the seat is now the leg rest. So anyway, kind of neat.
Yeah, it is. I wonder where the top goes. I mean, just leave it at home
Just
or
get it out of the view of the photograph,
yeah, well,
the camera.
yeah, I'm just curious,
Yeah,
where do you take that top? Do you carry a soft top with you in case it's going to rain? That leaves more questions.
yeah,
The article left more questions than it did.
it did.
All
And
right.
that was one of the more informative articles I came across on this particular vehicle.
Yes. Let's see. Oh, now I got a funny one. Republicans change tunes on Elon Musk, but not on Tesla. This is kind of funny.
Wow.
So this is some polling. So um, GOP voters still have a 48% negative opinion of EVs, and only 15% have a favorable one. That's kind of fascinating. Um, 38% of Republicans have a mixed view on EVs. But on Musk,
No,
their
they're coming
favorability,
around. They're coming around.
yeah. So over the past year, they've gone from 35% of people having a favorable opinion of Elon Musk to 70%, but it hasn't improved their opinion of EVs. So,
Yeah.
who knows? It's not. It's definitely not good for Tesla having that going on. It's getting the hate from a lot of the people who were big supporters
Yep.
of EVs.
Well, you had
And
this past weekend. You had protests outside of dealerships.
yeah, well, the weird stuff is where we start getting into. Yeah, there was some article about some guy getting punched in the face that owns a Cybertruck, and he's gone
Hmm.
around and started putting dollar bills with
Dollar bills.
smiley faces or
Yep.
hearts on them, hearts on them,
Yeah.
um, outside of. Um, if he sees other Cybertrucks, he'll put one under a dollar bill underneath the windshield wiper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
And then there's the roofer who said that because he started showing up at jobs, to bid on roofing jobs,
mhm.
he's lost $70,000 in jobs because that people didn't want to do business with him.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Um, a Florida owner said that driving a Cybertruck often leads to political assumptions, false claims about the vehicle, and even threats. Well, you're probably, I don't know about the Cybertruck, but you're probably more likely to be left leaning if you own a Tesla than you would be if you didn't. And so that makes it kind of interesting. Although I would almost guess that most Cybertruck owners probably are right leaning because most of them are business owners. So that right there is
Well, it's kind of like you don't judge a book by its cover.
yeah, you really don't know. You
Yeah.
really just don't know. I usually guess if I see somebody driving a Tesla, they're probably Indian because in our market, it seems like Indians in the IT space, that's pretty much all they drive.
Yeah.
So it's
Great.
yeah, no, they all drive it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really quite
Well,
it's quite humorous.
we should point out that David is a tennis coach, and so he has a lot of people that he teaches, and some of those kids that he teaches are the offspring of IT. We have a very strong IT
Well,
and medical community here
I've
that are Indian. So
I don't know if I ever told you, I actually have an Indian uncle and Indian cousins.
okay,
So I mean, I have family from Calcutta, India.
okay,
So
I
um,
didn't know that.
no, I've never brought that up before, but it does get to be humorous in discussions with people from that part of the world. They're rather shocked. So, I mean, to a certain degree, I think
Well,
the
hey,
whole
the
family was
vice
shocked.
president, right?
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
people, brilliant,
Well,
very
yeah.
smart people.
Yeah.
So
Our current vice president's wife is from India,
yeah,
and the previous vice president's parents were from India.
yeah.
So, you know,
And one of
it's
our prominent guests on now, I think Jigger was actually born here in the U.S., but obviously his parents, came from India. So
yeah, I wasn't sure if he was from India or if he would be from Pakistan.
no, I think he's from India.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of made an assumption that he would be, you know, they might have been from the other, but you just never know. You ever can't tell with those last names.
I've always been of the assumption that he was born here in the U.S. and parents came here. So
Well, they're essentially the same people, even if they don't like each other.
we won't go there. Okay, that led to a lot of heartbreak and sorrow.
It sure
That
did. It
that
sure
little
did.
family breakup. So
And the sad thing is most of the people really don't care. The average person really doesn't care that much, but you get all these politicians that make the, you know, thing
yeah,
crazy stuff happen and you
what was
just never know.
the guy's name that was the principal instigator of the breakup? I forget his name now. That
Oh,
in
I don't
Pakistan,
know.
yeah, yeah.
I've never gone back really and studied that part of history. But these incidents keep happening as Tesla struggles to sell the Cybertruck. Despite over 1 million reservations, fewer than 40,000 have sold. They've introduced $750 monthly leases, $1,000 referral discounts, and even free $6,000 wraps. So I didn't realize they were offering that.
Oh,
Oh,
wow. How
uh,
about that?
to boost sales. But even with these incentives, the electric pickup is proving difficult to move, leading some to question the future of the Cybertruck program. That's interesting because they
Did
really
we?
need the wrap. I'm not a big fan of the stainless steel look.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Did we ever resolve the 400, what was it? Was it $400 million
It
or
was
something?
$400 million for electric armored
Yeah,
trucks.
did we ever resolve the fact, was it to take existing vehicles in the State Department fleet and up armor those, or were they to order new vehicles that were to be armored? So,
My understanding was they were going to have to order vehicles to be armored,
okay.
but you could take existing vehicles. I would imagine that to do a truck probably costs about 120, $130,000.
Yeah. Because obviously all of I would assume all of our embassies overseas have their own motor pools.
Hmm.
And I would assume that some of those in the more challenging political environments are probably have at least a few of the vehicles that have been, up armored for the ambassador and maybe his key staff members. So,
Yeah, I'm
why?
sure that's an
Yeah,
issue.
yeah,
Once again, the concern comes about um, we know the electric motor is not going to have any trouble moving, the heavier vehicle, but the question is how energy efficient does that get? It
yeah.
starts being questionable. Of course, it's obviously not energy efficient as a gas vehicle either, but I'm just saying that may cause issues with range. I would think that the Hummer SUV would make a lot of sense just because it has the big battery and it's already
I don't know. It
inefficient.
depends on how far they figure they need to go, right?
Yeah. But
How far from
anyways,
the embassy to the nearest border or the nearest airport
yeah.
or
But
the
don't we have
nearest,
a 2025 Escalade that's all EV now? I was thinking that this was supposed
yeah,
to be the year that that 750 horsepower Escalade was supposed to come out.
I think so. I haven't kept that
I
close a
mean,
tab
so
on it.
right there, you could certainly armor up a Escalade as well.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Let's see here. Oh, we've talked about Musk. There's so many articles about um, issues with Democrats plan Musk protests outside Tesla dealerships.
Yeah.
Democrat
Yeah,
activists planning a
there
protest
were there were a
campaign.
bunch of stories I posted this morning on this.
That's just strange. Um, anyways, let's go on to um, Aptera news.
Yeah,
So,
this was interesting. I like this little story.
a company called Telo Trucks, Telo Trucks, and Aptera have combined their core competencies to put solar panels on small electric pickup trucks. Now, this looks like an AI generated deal here, but
I don't know, what are we looking
um,
at? Oh yeah,
this
yeah.
this is showing the Telo truck, which it's got a cute little design. It's supposed to be a
Different
small
option.
truck.
Yep.
Now, I know I've seen the Derek Automotive trucks with solar panels on the roof, but it's more of, you imagine a painter that's got ladders mounted on the back,
Right.
and it's more like up high, and you've got solar
Right.
over the back and the front of the vehicle, like a wing.
Yeah.
Whereas this is actually integrated into
This is
different aspects of the rear cover.
yeah. What they did here is Aptera, of course, is known for their very sleek three-wheeled solar only. Generally, I mean, you can charge it, but generally solar powered uh, three-wheeled car. And Tilo, which is located further up the coast, there in California, is developing this small pickup van. And what they're doing is using the solar technology that Aptera has developed and engineered to offer this as an option to Tilo owners. They haven't actually produced any production vehicles yet. They're still in the engineering phase. But the idea is that as the guy that is the founder of Tilo points out, that the bane of every electric vehicle or hybrid, I can speak to that on my own case, is the 12-volt battery, and keeping the 12-volt battery charged. So what they're doing here is they're using these solar panels to take and keep the car's 12-volt battery charged up, not to power the vehicle itself, but to keep the 12-volt charged. Because without that 12-volt, the car won't start, the electronics won't operate. So you got to have that. That's what this partnership's about, not to necessarily provide power for the although with the bed, that probably gives them a little extra juice.
I'd
Um,
imagine it gives them more than 10 miles of range a day, depending
well,
on where you're at.
yeah, it depends on where you're at and how it's being used. Yeah, but
I'd
their focus
also
is
argue that while not having really seen how heavy the Tilo is, I know from looking at the Derek Automotive trucks that they could get 40 miles of range out of the solar. And that was because the truck isn't that heavy. So they
yeah,
have a small battery and a not very heavy truck. But this is interesting because the Tilo guy, like he's saying, let's use this to stop issues with the 12-volt battery. And
yeah.
that's kind of a fascinating concept, but it certainly covers that. Um, a commercial, let's see, a commercial customer of Tilo has a fleet of 500 plus vehicles. They park outside all the time and are driven about 10 miles per day, which makes it an interesting use case for them. On the commercial side, ports, military, and utility companies require employees to be in their trucks for extended times. The vehicle doesn't move that much, but it sits a lot. And it's a great application for turning that heat load into energy to keep the vehicle cool. It's a a fitting idea because there are certainly a lot of places where the vehicles aren't driven much. But it's interesting that that's Aptera, who we keep hoping is going to come to market. But both of these companies aren't quite to market yet.
No, not there. Come on, guys. Get there, get there. No, I turned around to look because for the past few days, speaking of commercial vehicles that aren't moving, for the past couple of days, the aloe cable guys or whatever they're using,
Aloe fiber.
aloe fiber had been parked over here just, in the street across from me for the last couple of days. So I was just looking to see if they're still there. They were this morning. So there's a case where
you'll get that probably in your neighborhood pretty quick. Like I said,
yeah,
I made that transition a week ago to fiber, and I've had a couple of mild outages, but it's been really weak. For the most part, it's a super consistent connection. And when I say we've had outages, we've had it go down for like 30 seconds a few times. I don't know what's causing that. I've wondered if it has something to do with the temperatures. I don't know if temperatures
could
can
be, and they're
affect
still,
fiber.
yeah, and they're still doing, maintenance and things. No, I've got a line here. I have a bone to pick with them, by the way, because they came into my yard and they left my little fence open over here because
Hmm.
they had to make looks like multiple trips from the path through the snow. And in the process that they didn't close the gate. And so it kept blowing in the wind. I kept hearing this noise. It turns out that the gate was open and was slamming against my brand new installed uh, rain, spouts, downspouts. So I'm going to have to, when the weather gets good, I'm going to have to go out there and kind of twist and, reshape
Mm.
the metal and stuff like that. So yeah, I've got it's here, it's available. I'm just not sure I need it with my current situation. So we'll see.
All right, let's talk about the hydrogen plane. So a European
Oh yeah.
hydrogen-powered plane that will attempt a nonstop flight around the world. Um, it's called the Climate Impulse,
Hmm.
and the progress they've made on the design and building of the experimental liquid hydrogen-powered aircraft. Now, I don't get how much power or how much this vehicle is going to have to haul in terms of hydrogen to make a
Dale,
trip like that.
there is. I did a little more research, and when I post this story to the I haven't posted it yet to the editor's choice. You'll see what the illustration of the thing looks like. What you're looking at right there is the pilot's cabin. If you're familiar with the old Lockheed P-38 Lightning, where
Hmm.
you had a central cockpit and then you
Yeah,
had the engines outboard with the T-tail,
yeah.
that's what this plane will be. So all you're looking at here right now is the carbon fiber cockpit area. And the actual wingspan of this aircraft is going to be comparable to an Airbus 340. So it's going to be really, really big. And it has those huge outboard nacelles are enormous. They're probably 50% bigger, if not more than that little cockpit area. So it's
Oh,
a,
okay.
so it's you'll see that when I post the actual story because I kept thinking, how is this thing going to fly around the world? Where's the hydrogen? The tanks for
Aviation
the hydrogen.
pioneer, yeah,
Pardon?
aviation pioneer Bertrand Piccard,
Yep,
who's the 10th great grandfather of Jean-Luc Picard, um,
right.
are working on this. So,
He's already been around the world once. They flew the Solar Impulse, which
oh
is the
wow.
battery powered version, around the world. What 3 4 years ago?
Hmm.
So he's already done this. And of course, he was also, they did a around the world with a hot air, well, with a helium filled balloon. So he's done this. This is what this gentleman does for a living. So now he's going to try to do this with a fuel cell powered version of the solar impulse, which was battery. He's going to try to do it now with and nonstop, because back with the battery version, they had to make multiple stops. Not interestingly, not to recharge the battery, but to replace the pilots, because the thing was so slow. It flew, I think, the equivalent of about 45, 50 miles an hour. So it took days, literally, to go around the world. And they made it.
This one's going to go about 100 knots.
This one's going to do 100 knots, so you can get by. I'm sure it's probably a cabin.
That's still 10 days to get around the planet.
Well, that's what they're hoping to do. Yeah.
And it's going to stay airborne the whole 10 days on hydrogen.
Yep.
You know, it's funny because they mention, you know, that it's 110-foot wingspan, which is the same as an Airbus 320. And I saw some article a couple of days ago where Airbus gave up on developing hydrogen.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, they're not the only ones. Rolls-Royce has done the same thing. So
it's funny because we see so many things about people giving up on hydrogen, and at the same time, people coming back to hydrogen.
Yep.
And here's where we were talking about it having that P-38 style design. If I could make this a little larger.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Oh. Yep, go down. There it is.
Yeah. So that's yeah, definitely very similar to that. Although it is weird. It does seem like it's bigger on the right side than the left side.
Well, I think that's just a
who knows
perspective.
Could be.
I mean, obviously, it's a simple, CAD drawing at this point.
When you look on his other one, it looks symmetric.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the P-38, it was connected here, and that was bad for pilots bailing out. You had to flip the plane upside down to bail out.
Down to get out of the airplane. Yeah.
Yeah. The fun fact there for all you EV enthusiasts.
We're going to get you involved with aviation one way or the other.
Yeah, I know. Well, anyways, Bill, we're over time already.
Oh yeah.
So,
yep. Hey.
Anyways, folks, want to thank everybody for listening in.
Thanks for
I'll be back with our engineer Mike Herzog tomorrow, and Bill will be back with me on Thursday. Otherwise, folks, have a great day.